Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Ask the CEO, a show that comes to you every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. My name is Apollo Sabiiti. Like I always say, it's always a pleasure as well as a privilege knowing that you are tuned, watching and listening from the other side. Now, this show is powered by Young and Flourishing, a show that brings to you people and their stories, and we believe these together can leave a pulse of hope and inspiration, something that could be relevant to at least a chapter in your life. Now we will take a very short break, and when we return, I'll be introducing our guest tonight, someone that I believe you're very familiar with. Please do stick by. All right, welcome back from that very short break. Now we have a guest in the house, a very interesting gentleman. We've had him on the show before, as a matter of fact, if you remember. It is a pleasure to have you once again, Engineer Reuben Tumwebaze.
Thank you, Apollo.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yes, please. Could you say hello to the viewer before we dive into the day's topic, please?
Good evening, our dear viewers. It's always a joy and pleasure to share what God has put on my heart with you. And I hope within this journey, I will learn something, you will learn something. Have a blessed viewing.
Thank you so much. We are very, very privileged to have this fine gentleman who has crossed paths with a lot of career decisions. He's been plying his trade in a number of top-notch companies in Nepal. He currently is the MD, the Managing Director of Uganda Clays Limited. Now, today we will be talking about building a culture of excellence at the workplace or in the marketplace. Now, oftentimes we bring here business-minded people, proprietors, but we need to know and get with it that actually some of us are naturally meant to take the career path. So he's going to be taking us through how to build that culture of excellence at the workplace. Engineer, if you would please take us away on the day's topic. I'm very, very humbled once again to be under the sound of your voice.
Thank you very much, Apollo. And it's a pleasure to be on this wonderful program, asking the CEO that many of us we do not deserve had it not been by the grace of God.
Yeah.
I do not have a structured way of sharing about this topic. I want to believe my host will be guiding me through. But I'm going to be free. I'm going to share myself out and the different views that I have both read, but also been revealed to as the fundamental truth and principles how to build a life of excellence at the workplace. A life of excellence for you as a leader. And my view of a leader is you as a person, you're a leader to yourself. Okay? Yeah. So you are a follower of you as a leader.
Of what you believe in, what you stand
for. Even by a mere fact that you are standing on the roadside.
Yeah.
There are people that are emulating your posture. The way you signal down the taxi or the border, the way you respond when you are seated on it, and how you move, how you interact with this border person.
Yeah.
All that is leadership. Are you using this opportunity to tell him that speed kills? Are you using this opportunity to find out how he is, where he comes from, whether he has a family? And by the time you pay your 10,000, you must use that to create impact beyond the original purpose why you wanted to move from point A to point B. So it's very important, first and foremost, before you begin talking of excellency, that people understand that by the very fact that you are alive, you are automatically a leader. A leader role derived from the creation story. You
Yeah.
were created as a leader. You have all the limbs and structures around you as a leader. The fact that you can communicate, the fact you can, and you've led. You've either led people to weird things or to positive things. Your
Either side of
whether you were
it.
just abusing a person, you were leading, you were creating
Yeah.
an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were changing lives of people. The question is, are you changing lives of people positively? Are you aware that actually you are leading? For us who are lucky to be husbands and wives, now that takes us to another level of leadership.
Yeah.
It is a leader for today, leader for tomorrow, and for a long foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Therefore, my view is that we need to aspire to make excellency a habit in whatever we do.
It is just like daily bread.
Yes, we need to make it a habit around yourself, your speech, and that starts with self-mastery. Because as I discuss, I'll be looking at developing excellency to yourself. You need to excel.
Yeah.
Then in your area of influence, whether at church or work, wherever you are, in your family, to your relatives, everything, that is leading others now,
Yeah.
but also creating resilient organization around you, irrespective of the position you hold.
There's some people who say, I'll wait until I get things together. I'll wait until I get a good job. That does not hold. Anyone, wherever they are actually meant to be leaders.
Yeah, because you see, you the next desired position or leadership responsibility is a function of the successes of the current responsibility.
Yeah.
And to some extent a function of the previous engagements you've had. And so people want to see that story. They saw you very raw many years ago. They've seen you transition. They saw you erratic and trigger happy.
Yeah.
They now see a person who has now become calm and self-controlled.
Yeah.
People are viewing and they are seeing and they are looking at you. And it's very difficult to know who will promote you.
Yeah.
And as you master yourself, as you understand who you are, and that's where it begins from.
Yeah.
As you understand your attributes and your traits and your cultures, and you transcend beyond, for me, I am a Muchiga, for me, I'm from northern Uganda, and for us we behave like this.
Yeah.
When you transcend beyond all those stereotypes and prejudices that have been labeled against your background and your being by others and by yourself,
yes,
and by your own beliefs, all of these are really judging you. That's why I think in Hebrews say we are surrounded by a great crowd of witnesses. Since that is true, therefore let us what? Do whatever it takes to disentangle ourselves with all those things that are real and they seem and they're imposed and they're actual, that are really burdening us. Some of us, we are unable to lead a life of excellence because we have many burdens. We have many burdens. Last night, I was discussing with my wife, and I got a revelation that I had never gotten before. We are discussing about bitterness, for example, which can ravage you completely. Others are lucky, they know that they are bitter. Others don't know that they are bitter.
Are you talking about dealing with anger?
Dealing with anger, but also those things you keep saying, for me, what did I do? Why am I not like, sorry, why am I? All those are deep-rooted
self-hate,
self-conservation, self-pity. You fear to be courageous because you want to preserve her. Every time I go for this. And the revelation came to us like a paper, the foundations of a sustained bitterness. And it was amazing. One of them is what I saw is failure to count your blessings. It's difficult to lead a life of excellence if you've not counted your blessings, one by one.
As the old hymn song says.
And you see, many people are good at counting their expected blessings.
Yeah.
What the blessings they thought and they feel they should have. So they count those very well. Should have received. I don't know who tells them that they and that leads me to the second major rooted foundation of bitterness.
Yeah.
Entitlement. Why are you busy counting that by 35 I'm supposed to have built a house? By 35 I'm supposed to have been a manager. That the moment you go in that mode, you're not counting a blessing that by 35 I am alive. By that 35 I am married. By 35 I'm also employed. I'm maybe a graduate.
Yeah.
Or I have something. Count those blessings. My parents have not fallen sick to require me to fundraise for them to go to India.
Yeah.
And they've not been so hungry to cause me
to maybe go extremes.
Exactly.
With finance.
So when you fail to count your blessings, you now count the blessings that you feel you missed.
There should be.
And and when you begin to count those ones, then the question is, why did the entire get these blessings?
Yeah.
You begin to say, it is because my father didn't do this.
Yeah.
It's because our education system is weak. It's because our government is corrupt. So you now go into the third party blame. Now that takes you to pride, and you now kill every opportunity to study who you are, because you are lucky, you have the reason for your not excelling.
Oftentimes, when one door closes, another door opens. But again, many times we spend a lot of time crying about the closed door that we miss the open ones. The guest tonight is telling us about people who, when they do not hit certain targets, being harsh on themselves, forgetting to count their blessings, as the old hymn goes, one after another.
Yeah.
Appreciating that the sun is out today, I'm breathing, I'm still here, and I'm grateful for that gift of life. Mm-hmm. He is talking about entitlement. I think he was, before I interjected, you are trying to wind down on that. When people think they are entitled to this, and when it doesn't happen, we have figures, people who are walking civil wars, people who are shattered, slipping into despair unnecessarily. What nugget would you like to throw for someone out there? And this is very common with the young blood, like we say these days. Could you please throw some light to someone who is probably watching the show or will catch a link much later, how better they can actually do that appreciation of today's life? Thank God for life and hope that the other things will come by and by. Could you please send that message home? Look into the screen, tell this. Don't be too harsh on yourself.
Yeah. I think many people confuse being content with themselves and with whatever they have to mean complacency. I'm really not. I'm really not talking about that. I'm saying that when you count your blessings one by one, and you give glory to God and to what He has enabled you to achieve and reach at,
That's far.
you will be amazed that all along you've been an excellent person, irrespective of how circumstances have judged you, irrespective of what your relatives have told you, irrespective of what your bosses have told you. What they've told you was a reflection of the things that you need to work on. But it's very important for you to appreciate that you've already been successful, even before you came to realize that.
You were already successful.
Yeah, even being funny, even when your father and your mother met and you emerged the winner by striking that over and you came out of the potential millions and millions, that you became already successful.
Right from conception.
Exactly.
Tough love we are talking
yes.
here.
And as you sojourned through the 9 months,
Yeah.
you struggled, your mother almost falling down and
Yeah.
bleeding and also going, maybe some are through cesarean, others are prematures, and you are still viewing this, having done more than 6 months.
Whoa.
You're already successful. You are excellent. You are a fighter. And you've won. The fact that you are even now 10 years, 20 years. So it's very important for people to accept that. So those feedbacks you get are just small areas that you need to work on. And it's very important to critically observe them. And where possible, seek out for those pieces of feedback.
Yeah.
And it's through that you now begin to identify how great you are and what you can do. Despite those weaknesses that you've mentioned, you've been successful. And for us who did mathematics, when you do the resolution of forces,
Yeah.
you have a positive force.
Yeah.
With all the frictional forces,
Yeah.
the abuses you've had, maybe your uncle abused you or whatever you faced.
The mu, the coefficient.
Yes. But even then, you have the positive tractive force.
That's enough to spur you.
So if you now reduce the friction, if you now work on other things, you will succeed. And that now brings me to my basis of the values that I've seen help me, and I believe they can help others. The first point is the 3 fundamental purposes of every living thing, a living human being. They are tested. They are for every religion, whether you believe in God or not. These are fundamental 3 purposes. Purpose number 1 is to leave a godly legacy, to multiply godly legacy. His legacy in terms of what he intended us to achieve, the way he created the world with a well-enabling and fully fledged. And for us, therefore, we have to multiply that legacy through innovation, through creation, through all those things.
Yeah.
Okay? The second purpose is to mirror God's image. Mirror God's image. For us who read the Bible, we are created in God's image and in our own likeness. Okay? It's very, very important that we mirror God's image. When people look at you, do they see God? Do they see harmony? Do they see, a lot of energy, to multiply God's legacy?
Yeah.
The third purpose of every human being is to live in perfect companionship with God's people and God's creation, irrespective of where you are. Like at my level now, that is an important value, because we are now entering sustainability reporting, sustainability management, where we look at 4 P's now. That is planet, people, products, and profit. And in that order, by the way, you have to look at people, you have to look at the planet, the environment, the climate change that is happening, and everything. And you have to now look at also products that you produce, and the performance. Performance which has products and profits.
So from people to planet
and to performance, where performance is products and what? Profit. Okay? And anybody who is not managing himself around those areas will always have conflicts. You are supposed to live in companionship with God's people, but also it's your responsibility to protect the environment. As you mirror God's image, as you multiply His legacy. Out of those 3 core purposes, I drive my values of radical multiplication, because the only way to be faithful is to multiply radically. The only way to be faithful is to understand that mandate, that preservation is not a way to go, but you must multiply. Whether you are in your family, around yourself, around your neighborhood, at the workplace, in your little department, even if you're the office messenger, multiply radically. If taking a letter from one office was taking 1 day, do it in 1 minute and bring back the feedback. In that little space, you've multiplied. But also get somebody to touch and impact. That is now personal leadership, now being released into leading others in the life of excellence.
Quite interesting. In case you just joined us on the show, this is Ask the CEO, a show that comes every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. This show is powered by Young and Flourishing, and our guest tonight is engineer Reuben Tumwebaze, a man who has plied his trade from Century Bottling, the famous Coca-Cola, to the Uganda National Roads Authority, and now is the managing director at Uganda Clays Limited, telling us about how he has made it to the topmost top and what has fueled his journey. He calls them core values that informs how far he has come, and probably how far he is how high he will hit. Even, I mean, they say gachali mabaga.
Yes.
Still
sure.
Amen.
Yeah.
So please, that was, I think, number 2 that fed into the 4 P's.
Yeah.
Could you please now continue? And you talked about your pillars, the pillars that have stood out for you.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about the 4 P's before I interjected to have maybe some people who were just joining us or had just joined us and probably missed out on the introduction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, the life of excellence. I think it's also very important for us to recognize what excellence is not. It's not being perfect, and I think it's very important that people recognize that. In fact, I was telling somebody that courage, for example, cannot thrive where there is no fear.
Yeah.
It's difficult because that word wouldn't even exist anyway.
Yeah. Just like success and failure.
Yeah. So one of the things that have helped me to try and do my best wherever I am, with all my weaknesses, with all my erratic nature, really very raw from primitive background to now what I view, maybe I'm becoming somebody.
I remember when we last had you on the show, in your words, he said he lived about 70 kilometers from the nearest civilization.
Yeah, that's where I was
at
born.
the time.
70 kilometers from Kabale town.
So from there...
In 1975.
Yeah.
Up to now, actually, it is still
the
remotest where I come from. Yeah.
But God to lift you from there to where you are today. It's I think in your words you said it's one of the things that you look back and even without thinking twice is enough fuel.
Is enough fuel. I at the university we used to say even if God takes 1 year without blessing me, I will still give glory to God because those blessings are really abnormal.
For sure.
Coming from that ground. But so the living a life of excellence doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you have to do all things right. But it's about incremental change, continual improvement around yourself. You were a person who used to get annoyed yesterday, but now you are more happy.
Yeah.
You've taken a deliberate effort. That is now living a life of excellence. You've recognized your failures and you now can work on them and begin to improve. That's a life of excellence. It's not about 100%. The Bible does not tell us how those people who multiply the talents, whether they are supposed to have had 10 instead of 5.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
But the fact that they multiplied, they were viewed as very what? Very, very critical.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that have helped me to shape that, because of understanding that I'm supposed to multiply God's legacy, I'm supposed to mirror His image, and that makes me a powerful leader in my own right. At workplace, This is my principle, and I wish somebody can pick it from there. I've always operated at 2 positions higher than my position. In my mindset, in my programs, and so, for example, if I'm a manager and above me there's a head of department and above him there is maybe a director, I've always moved as a director. 2 levels higher than my current position.
How so?
I will not tell anybody, but that's how I behave. What that means is that, and I started that in 2003, when I just 2 years into my career, I developed that kind of behavior. What that does to any professional, if you choose to say I am 2 positions higher than my current appointed position, one, you don't sit idle, of course. You will have now to research and find out what are the responsibilities of that second
person.
level. I mean the 2 positions higher,
Yeah.
that person. What are the job descriptions? I remember picking the job description of the plant director then at Hima Cement and reading it. And that's when I realized that I had many gaps. And it helped me to start doing business studies, doing SCCA, doing a lot of reading around to try to cover those gaps. Should I be given such a responsibility? But also, it helps me to avoid work politics that are of lower value.
I remember, as a matter of fact, you nibbled at it the last time we had you on the show. That you would go back and think through how your day was, and then you realize you need to close some loops.
Like that. Because I'm now the boss of my boss, I cannot conflict with my boss because I'm his or her boss in my mind and in my psychological setup. I now can easily understand where my boss is coming from.
When he says certain things,
I can understand. Even if he or she tends to be unreasonable, but because I'm his boss in my mental structure, I am now able to position myself to mentor him, to mentor her. Of course, I cannot come out direct. So that helps me to quickly understand and apologize where possible and seek out for opportunities to support my boss. As visibly as his or her subordinate, but mentally, I am supporting him as his boss. And what that means is that now my lateral interactions is at the level of the boss of my boss. So what does that mean? The life of excellence is first of all to understand the 2 critical currencies that will make anybody shoot up. There's the performance currency and there's the relationship currency. Performance currency is what will move you from level 1 to level 2 because of how you perform. Most likely your boss knows how you perform.
Most definitely, yes.
So in the earlier positions, you'll be accelerated by how well you perform. And your boss will speak for you. But as positions begin to be tighter, as you go up, you need a lot of relationship currency. In most cases where decisions about you are discussed in your absence. Sometimes they are even discussed in the absence of your immediate boss.
So you have almost no chance of getting to know.
You will never defend yourself.
Ever happened.
If your boss says, Reuben is a wonderful guy, is good, but do you mind giving me one more chance to support him? Then you are finished. He has not said no, but he has just said,
technically,
I still have a lot of
some polishing to.
Or your boss is so selfish. He likes you so much because of what you do for him, and he does not want you to move. So your performance currency is not able to help you. He will acknowledge it, and he will say that without him, that department is dead. But he's saying, I cannot release him. You are depleting my department. At that point, whether it's for you or not, you need now relationship currency to set in. A mentor whom you are not necessarily aware that he's your mentor. Somebody who is fond of your values, who is fond of the way you work. both from a historical point of view, but also the way you've managed during your tenure at that place.
Yeah.
That person will defend you. We call that relationship currency. That's very important, that even if you have great ideas of excellency, without a system that gives you an opportunity to deploy them, you will never be viewed excellent. And therefore, you need a good relationship currency at your disposal. You need to increase its value so that now people in your absence can defend you and take you higher. And therefore, I want to call upon all those who want to succeed in a career, that everybody around you must be your marketing officer. That sweeper must be your marketing officer. That lady who brings tea and you fail to say thank you, you instead say, what's wrong with your bread? What's wrong with your what? All the time, as they talk their side, they're saying, hey, boss, tulema. You get, they are discussing real issues. And these days organizations are not recruiting degrees, they are not recruiting first classes.
What can you bring to the table?
Exactly. I have people who never went beyond senior 4 who are earning 4 millions. I have one guy, I am glad to mention, he works with him as cement, he earns towards 4 millions. Senior 4.
But he makes things happen.
He's versatile, he's very excellent. I just want the skill, I don't care.
Les Brown says that there are 3 types of people. There are those who make things happen. There are those who watch things happen. And then there are those who don't know what is happening.
Exactly.
So the world is looking for people who make things happen.
Exactly.
And there's every reward.
Yeah. So that's why it is very important. Perform well. So that the performance currency takes you to another level. Both now in your current organizations, but also the current job I have, I got it because of a junior person somewhere where I worked that talked to people who mattered, that they were looking for an MD. And I saw them coming, we talked, we discussed, and here I am now because of the performance currency, probably, maybe the relationship currency. But now we are talking of relationship currency with people who matter. And once you detect that, you can also deliberately look out for that. There is a principle we call in military training and those strategic studies.
Yes, please.
The strategic depth. Strategic depth of a nation is how fast an aggressor can attack your strategic location. For Uganda, for example, Kampala, how fast can you approach Kampala and take over? And nations struggle and make sure they understand their strategic depth. When you see our president doing a lot of regional integration,
it's because
regional, going to Ethiopia and making sure you are in harmony
with your
by
neighbors.
doing that, you are increasing your strategic depth. If anybody from West Africa wanted to come and attack Uganda, Kenya might come up, Tanzania might come up. You get it. It might be difficult for those neighborhood countries to allow a military base against you to be set up. Okay, Israel is one of them. It has the limited strategic depths. Kigali, just 90 kilometers from what? Kabale. How fast can you attack it? So what do they have to do in response? Even you as a person, you need to understand your strategic depth as a person. I understood my strategic depth. That my strategic location was easy to be knocked off. Having come from the remote places, coming to Kampala without a godfather, without a godmother, not knowing anybody in the political circles anywhere. I knew that my strategic depth was what? Was very negligible. And therefore I had to devise means and ways of increasing my strategic depth. And I chose to sell, for example, one major product, that's integrity and performance. I knew if I sell those 2 products,
you will go far.
I will go far. I will sustain my job. I will deploy all village models of working hard, 24 hours, sleeping in the factory, but also making sure that
I understand things that are happening in other departments. Because you can be knocked off by your other colleagues.
Yeah.
So I had to understand what is happening in other departments very well, read hard, so that when I am discussing with you, I know your department.
You're not very abstract or
when
lost.
we are conflicting, I will shoot you very well on your game. And I will not allow you to cross my line without information and data.
Yeah.
Especially in manufacturing, you find departments colliding. You are the one who caused this, you are the one who caused this.
Yeah.
So it was always an amazing journey for people to see an engineer understanding things in quality, understanding things in HR, understanding things in finance. That's why I had also to add finance. So that I am able to engage. And when you're about to attack me, you cannot. You can only now collaborate. Okay?
Yeah.
That strategic depth worked for me very well when I joined Uganda National Road Authority.
Yeah.
It was a new department, road infrastructure protection.
Yeah.
I was the first director. But in the beginning, it was not viewed as a core. Because it had been pulled out from maintenance directorate or operations directorate then to create that, to do elements for road maintenance that would ordinarily not be given much attention by a typical road maintenance engineer in a crisis. Because if a road is cut off,
yes,
no director in charge of that road can pay attention to now the way bridges, for example. You have to first connect people.
Yeah.
So in the wisdom of the transformation, they had to create that directorate. So I come in as the first director, my first time to work in the government at that high profile.
Yeah.
I then realized that my strategic depth for that department, the directorate, was very negligible. It could easily be thrown back.
Yeah.
But many other directorates were not probably understanding it. It was a good thing to have. But how does it get integrated in the bigger vision? So I had to work a lot of, let me now call it, directorate balancing. Going to this directorate and making sure we are friends, we are subordinate to them in a way, we are humble to them, but also we support them where we can.
Yeah.
But because I could not succeed without the directorate of road maintenance, without the directorate of planning, without the directorate of development, without other directorates.
So you establish an ecosystem of sorts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can't believe, I'm naturally a tough person, but throughout the 5 years, my fellow directors viewed me as a very calm and humble person. And I believe some of them are listening, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
You get it?
Yeah.
And yet within my directorate, people were seeing me as tough, as rough. It was really a contradiction.
Yeah.
But I had to behave in a particular fashion, engage in a particular fashion, do a lot of understanding of civil work, even though I'm not a civil engineer, so that when I'm discussing with my fellow director, we are at par.
It was needed.
But I had no opportunity to be proud. I had no experience in the government. I didn't know how things worked. So I needed to have these directors as my mentors. And that helped me. Within 1 year, they had helped me resolve many issues. And it was now a core directorate that you cannot neglect.
Yeah.
Very firm, very strong.
Very hard to avoid.
Yeah. But had I joined with my pride, I am from a manufacturing, from private, this what. I knew my systems, but I could see some of the mistakes they were doing, but I noticed my mistakes were more than theirs. So I had to learn.
Yeah.
So that's how you build a life of excellency. I had to pick a lot of best practices from them. I had to invite them to come and talk to my people. Both tactfully and intentionally. And that helped. And you can help also do it everywhere. It's very important. So what I'm talking about, as you look at your performance currency, your relationship currency, what is your strategic depth as an individual? What is the strategic depth of the department you are leading, or the section, or even the organization, and how do you lead? And now that brings me to probably towards the last part.
Yes.
Of now how to lead organizations. It's very important to ensure that the organization you lead is resilient enough for both now and for future. We've just talked about how to make yourself resilient by mirroring God's image through your marriage, through your life, through your profession.
Yeah.
Multiplying God's legacy again through whatever you do, as you work and whatever. And believing in perfect partnership with God's people and His creation.
Yeah.
These are also fundamental purposes of every organization that has ever existed. If it's Uganda Clays, we are there to mirror God's image. As an organization, luckily even the local is an organization, a person.
Yeah.
Okay? We are there to multiply God's legacy. We are there to make sure that God's people are okay, they are happy, they are excited, but also the environment is protected, is preserved, is enhanced. And your organizational values must be built to deliver those three purposes aggressively. So first, by being people-centric. Resilient organizations are people-centric as a priority. You take cognizance of the fact that irrespective of how great your strategy is,
yes,
if your people are funny, are fake, are traumatized, are not liberated,
there's a problem.
You will not deliver that strategy. But also, your strategy is not a foolproof strategy. Things have to evolve. So first of all, organizations must ensure that they stop bad things from happening. And as a leader, that's your core responsibility.
Ahead of time.
Through your risk management systems, through all those things, you make sure you stop bad things from happening. But more importantly, you must keep good things keep happening.
Trickling in.
Through your performance systems, through the value-adding systems.
Yeah.
But for you to do those two, you must ensure that sustainably, for now and for future, that your people are adaptable enough. There is an environment that allows innovation. Life of excellence is about innovation.
Yeah.
It's about creating change. It's about changing what was yesterday to a different thing that will happen in the future. It's very important. Therefore, your people must be dynamic enough.
Yeah.
They cannot be dynamic in an element of stress, in an environment of chaos, in an environment of stifled dissent.
Very toxic.
Very toxic. You must allow dissenting views
Yeah.
to thrive, because in there, innovation thrives. And now it is more prevalent in the current situation where we have millennials.
Yeah.
Millennials get bored quickly, they are entitled, but they know what they want. And they are very fast. And they're interested.
And they're still energetic.
They are still energetic.
Yeah.
But they are not going to sustain one thing for a long time, and you have to keep adapting it. You know, adapting. And that's important. So creating a flexible environment for people to bring in their views, and creating resources, putting aside resources to deliver some of those ideas is very important. Great people that are well managed, that are well developed, that are well supported will lead to resilient organizations.
Thank you so much, Engineer Reuben. To you, dear viewer, thank you so much for sticking by. It's always a pleasure knowing that you are tuned in, watching us, listening in from the other side. We've been talking, building a culture of excellency at the workplace. Now, this is not just about employees. I would like to believe that someone who is watching us tonight has been able to get a package. I mean, employers, we're talking here, building strategies, how to be flexible, building an atmosphere, an ambience that is favorable for people to give their views, to allow certain kinds of discussions at the workplace, at the workstation. So we've been talking about strategic depth and all that. Now, Engineer Reuben, Tumwebaze, as we try to wind up today, we like to use the last segment, a few minutes, that you could concentrate this particularly to the African youth. We talked about it last time, and today is another chance. The drive home close to an African youth in regard to the topic tonight. What's that thing that you think needs to be adjusted? This time not on the employer's side, not on the proprietor's side, but someone who is at the bottom of the chain or somewhere in the middle. What is your message to them in regard to excellence and how far it actually can take them in realizing their dreams?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Like I said last time, and others will say, Africa is blessed as a young continent. On average, I think we are below 35 years. Yeah. Uganda being one of the youngest, I think second youngest.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, 50% of Ugandans are below 15 years. Yeah. And one, I want to encourage the youth of Africa to count their blessings one by one. That more than ever, they are privileged to have found themselves on the continent of Africa, a very rich continent. Two, as they count their blessings, they need to transcend their thought process beyond the political dynamics of their respective nations. I want the youth not to reduce their countries to their presidents. Yeah. Ugandan youth should not reduce their country to Museveni. Uganda is bigger than Museveni. Uganda is bigger than MK48. Uganda is bigger than that. Those will go. Uganda will stay. Probably the youth will stay longer than all those. Yeah. So looking at your country at a higher level and identifying the good things about your country, not what your country is supposed to have, but the good things. Knowing that our education system is strong on academic power, for example. Knowing that we have minerals and we have good arable soils and everything, and that anybody who is hardworking will thrive. Yeah. Anybody who is hardworking will thrive.
That's a given.
And Ugandan youth to take opportunities in what is happening around, the circles that are being created, the different programs that are around, the highly educated people that are around. If the youth can humble themselves and seek out good mentorship, and those who are in leadership, to ensure that you provide those opportunities and an environment for them to thrive. The good infrastructure that we so far have, that cannot be taken away. Whether it was built expensively or cheaply, whether corruption was around that infrastructure, if the road is put there, it cannot be taken away. Yeah. It can only now carry my cassava, the famous president's food now, from one place to another.
Point A to point B.
Point A to point B. And with that, we'll thrive. So, mastering who you are as the youth, avoid being used and being abused, resist because your country and your life is bigger than that. Then finally, is everybody working with the youth? We need to empower them right away from our individual homes. It's our responsibility. My responsibility is my 3 sons come out as credible youth. Yeah. I don't delegate that to government. I will not delegate that to the church. I will not delegate that to uncles. It's my responsibility. Why? Because I want to see the 4th generation greater. For me to do that, as I fight corruption, as I blame government for whatever they've not done, tomorrow my son is going to be the president, my son is going to be the minister. What am I putting in that son of mine? That either circumstantially or with the fight or whatever, when he becomes the president, he has values that are unwavering, and at that point, Uganda will explode. If I do it, and you Sabiiti does it, and my listener you do it, we will eventually create a force that is formidable.
Very unstoppable.
Thank you. Sure.
Beautiful words coming from an amazing man who boasts of 20 years of experience in the marketplace. We're talking from Hima Cement to Century Bottling, what we call Coca-Cola, to the Uganda National Roads Authority, UNRA, and now plies his trade as the managing director at Uganda Clays Limited. Engineer Reuben, I must say it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
And we hope we will be able to have him again. Remember this, self-mastery. If you're a young person watching the show, you will need that package on this road of life. We like to call it the narrow highway. My name is Apollo Sabiiti, your host on Ask the CEO, a show that happens every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. And this show is powered by Young and Flourishing. And now, if you forget anything from today's topic, remember this as you take home. Just count your blessings, one after another. The old song goes, count your blessings, name them one by one. You will be amazed. And we hope with that we'll be able to catch you next week on the same show, same time. And this is Church of Uganda Family TV. Thank you so much and have a good night.